KLTV soundcheck, KLTV soundcheck.
Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. We have Mr. Larry Wood here today to give us the invocation. We want to rise for that, and then we'll follow it with the pledge.
God, I thank you for the Christian history of the founding fathers of our nation. And I thank you that there's many people who love the biblical heritage our country has. And I pray that you would grace these men with the wisdom to continue in the tradition that American greatness has, with a love of the Constitution, with a love of liberty, and a love of freedom. So I pray that you would bless these men, and I thank you that they're here to serve us. In your name I pray, amen.
The pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I would entertain a review motion on the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes of January 21st.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Any questions, comments, changes that we see? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye, thank you. I'll run down through consent agenda. Agreements, contract, bid awards. We have affidavit of property tax refunds for 2024 on a yearly basis. Our treasurer has to file some reports. And so we're complying with law, and it's basically taxes that have not been collected and won't be collected. And that amounts in mainly on this first one, it involves a lot. It's mainly businesses that have closed and we don't have contact anymore. It's been mobile homes that have been taken off or destroyed or something. And that amounts, this year amounts to about a little over $86,000. Call for hearings. Our first 2025 budget amendment hearing is we're putting a call for hearing for February 25th at 9:30 a.m. Resolution to accept the affidavit of the Cowlitz County Treasurer for cancellation of uncollected personal property. A lot of these are, in fact, if you look down the list, the majority of these are senior exemptions, people that are seniors and they go through the process of applying and have their taxes reduced. And that makes up about 11 pages, but the majority of that is senior exemptions. And there could be some corrections in there also, and that amounted to right around 844,000. And that's consent agenda. That was short today.
No bills? I move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to approve consent agenda. Any questions, comments on it?
Good.
I don't see anybody online. We'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Two motion items today. I see Gina's.
Hey, good morning, Gina James, Health and Human Services. We have one item on the agenda today. This is an amendment to our consolidated contract with Washington State Department of Health. This amendment is adding a couple different funding streams. Not new, it's nothing, doesn't change anything that we're doing. It's kind of continuing what we have been doing. So it's adding a little over 31,000 for public health emergency preparedness. So that we're able to reimburse this fund when we participate in different planning activities for emergency preparedness with the Department of Emergency Management, the region, and the state. It's a little over 25,000 for Group B systems, for the work we do around Group B systems with permitting and testing for those systems. And then a little over 1.4 million for the Foundational Public Health Services funding. And this is the funding that we have seen this amount each year. If we don't utilize it by the end of the fiscal year, then we send back to the state what's not been utilized. We've most recently worked with the Board of Health and the commissioners on allocating some of this funding for Lower Columbia School Gardens. So there could be other projects in the future like that, but that's where that funding comes from. So again, this is just an amendment to that consolidated contract, adding this particular funding for this contract period.
If I remember right, was this contract period through June, first half of the year? Because the state's fiscal is different than ours.
Yeah, so this contract is kind of odd because the contract actually started January 1, but the funding is on the state fiscal year. So it's a little bit
Gotcha.
wonky in that sense. But so the contract started over January 1, and that's why we're now seeing these allocations at the beginning of the year. But the funding is kind of on the fiscal year. So we will sometimes see a partial allocation until we change fiscal years, and then we'll see the other allocation. So, yeah.
But we have until the end of the calendar year to allocate those funds and to use them.
We have, yeah, it kind of overlaps. So like with the 1.4 million, we will send at the end of June, we will send back at that time what we don't utilize of that. Now there will be another allocation that makes it essentially, that's an annual amount.
Okay.
And it just kind of, I guess that's what makes it a little bit wonky because the contract is different than the funding cycle. But it's that 1.4 annually, and then we have to work around that end of fiscal year deadline. So what we'll see in July or August is another amendment allocating that portion, but it's that 1.4 in a year's time.
How much have we received we received for this first fiscal year portion of that 1.4?
So we've actually, for this fiscal period, we've already received that 1.4.
Oh,
So this happens a little bit different than some of our other funding sources. This particular one, they send it to us, and then we have to reconcile at the end of the fiscal year. What we don't utilize, we send it back. And that's part of some of that budget discussion we were having yesterday, where it makes our budget look funny, because then sometimes we'll get it and we have to account for it in our budget, but then it doesn't reflect in actuals until later, or not at all, because we have to send it back. So that's why some of that conversation is a little funny as well.
And I think I mentioned this before. That's why you get to answer questions in your debate as to why we sent 800,000 back.
yeah, yeah.
Any other questions?
I move approval of the number 4, the contract amendment.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the contract amendment with the Washington State Department of Health. Any questions, comments? Anything on that? See none, see no hands. Call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Gina.
Okay, thank you.
Public defense.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
Morning, Ian.
I'm here, as we spoke yesterday, on a motion for approval for my conflict attorneys to be funded for the year of 2025.
State who you are.
I'm sorry? Oh, state who I am. I'm Ian Marr. I'm the director of the Cowlitz County Office of Public Defense. I should start with the formality. I apologize. The Office of Public Defense, and my name is Ian Marr. Ian? Yes, of course. So this, as it breaks down, really amounts to $1,200 per felony case that we appoint. As stated on the agenda, that amounts to an average of $12,000 a month, totaling $144,000 a year for these 3 attorneys, but they do provide a vital service. It is a contract that's longstanding with the county, and it provides court-appointed counsel for indigent criminal defendants when the Office of Public Defense has a conflict of interest.
We arrived at this amount from past history and, I don't know how much to go into the contract. It's just something the purpose is to give, indigents the same level of defense that any person would have. And it's a contract we negotiate. We're not really mandated.
Correct.
It's just something we've chosen to negotiate and take care of.
Right. The alternative, of course, would be case by case as conflicts arise to reach out to Vancouver, basically, is where the nearest population of criminal defense attorneys can be found that would even be possibly willing to take these cases. But the fact that these three attorneys are locally based and headquartered, it allows us to have much quicker access to them. They have quicker access to their clients, the jails, the courts. So again, it is a pretty vital service they provide.
Yeah.
I appreciated your explanation of the contract yesterday. You did.
Oh,
Thank
of
you.
course, yes.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a
I'm,
motion on it.
I'm good.
I move to approve the Office of Public Defense Agreement with Morgan Law, number 5.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agreement with Morgan Law, Joshua Gooday and Edward DeBrey. Any question? Oh, go ahead, Ron.
Just a simple protocol question is that are all of these cases that you defend face to face, or are you able to do some of them remotely over phone? Example, I have an acquaintance that's been working for years to get his disability through the court system, and that's went on and on and on with cell phone or other forms. So how do you handle the cases? Are they all in person or a variety of communication mechanisms?
The latter, a variety. For your acquaintance's disability hearing, I believe those courts, ever since COVID happened, still allow remote Zoom appearances in court. The criminal courts have now fully phased back to in-person hearings. So anytime somebody's on the record in court in a criminal hearing, they are in person. There are a few exceptions for individuals who can't travel or might be hospitalized. They can appear by phone or Zoom, but for our office, the Office of Public Defense, we are in person primarily now.
Okay, this question, okay. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Ian.
You too.
Before we head into public comments, I have a couple of things, and I don't know if Carolyn's on, she might want to speak to this. We had a question come through because the auditor has adjusted hours on Friday, and it came through from realtors because they had to change how they got docs recorded. And Carolyn and I had a conversation on it, and the explanation was Carolyn's had some turnover, and it's not a permanent thing. We're trying to get bodies in place to get it back open. And I told her I'd mention that today in case people had concerns that it's not a permanent condition. We're fighting in the auditor's office. She's trying to get bodies in place.
And is this a routine work week that there's a lack from Monday through Thursday?
No, there's no issues with Monday through Thursday.
This is the Friday.
Yeah, sometimes you'll find in people close a home like on Friday and they want to move in over the weekend, but it can't get recorded if it's in the afternoon because right now it's a little bit short.
Right.
Yeah. So that was where it originated from.
Okay.
I thought I'd bring that up. Tomorrow at 2:30, we have Department of Ecology in. I think I've mentioned that a few times. And Wednesday, February 5th, we have Mount St. Helens Institute. So with that, we'll turn it over to you. And I know Mr. Wood has some comments he wants to make. Yeah. Green light on there, buddy.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Thank you.
My name is Larry Wood, and I'm going to describe who I am, and I'm going to describe a problem, and I'm going to propose a solution, but it's going to be maybe kind of shocking idea. I don't think any other counties in Washington are moving towards an idea like this, so I'd like to give my opinion, and, you know, people will have different views of whether I'm right or not, but I want to start. So I hope that we could work together with this wild idea, but it doesn't bother me if we don't, because I'm not going to make any money off what I'm proposing to do. But I've been a developer. I've developed over 100 homes in Longview, and I've succeeded 3 times and I failed once in '08. And so I know what success is like, and I know what failure is like. And one of the interesting things I've observed about housing is the people who need housing the most are served the least. And it's because it's hard to make money for the people when you serve the people who have the least amount of money. And I would even say, in my own opinion, and much of this is my own opinion, my own observations, 15 years ago, Longview, I live in Longview, I speak mostly of Longview, I know you guys are concerned about the whole county, but we really didn't have a housing affordability crisis 10 or 15 years ago, in my opinion. Now we do. It's horrendous. And what most people don't realize, and I speak, here's how I define an expert. If somebody knows more than 10,000 people living in their community, I would say that as a real estate developer, I'm one of the 5 experts in Longview. There's nobody who in the last 25 years has developed more homes that lives in Longview. There are people from outside who come in and develop more, but I know how to develop homes. I don't know everything about developing homes, but I've done it 3 times on large developments, from 17 to 56 units, and I've got a track record of success. People love those neighborhoods. The 3 are the ones right next to Mount Solo Road. There's a power station by the, I forgot the little food store, Baker's Corner. Then I did the gated community that is really a great neighborhood down by the middle school. It's called Willow Point. And then I did, I actually failed at this site. Most people don't realize I failed at the same site that I eventually bought back from the bank. And then I built a rental townhome neighborhood it's called West Point. And I actually own a very large piece that I'm beginning to talk with the city of Longview, where I'm approved for 350 units, multifamily, in West Longview. I bought it under the Trump administration. The rules changed so dramatically. I just walked away from it during the Biden administration because they changed the rules for development with onerous environmental regulations. I think those are probably going to have a little leniency, so I'm pursuing that with the city of Longview again. But so I just want to take like maybe 5 or 6 more minutes and just describe what I think. I think we have a number of problems for affordable housing. We have national problems, and these are only my opinion, but you can decide if I have a valid opinion, and there's a lot of nuances to it. There's a number of reasons why affordable housing is so challenging, is because governmental agencies love to help, but when they do, prevailing wage, when you are building vertically, then you have to, you know, go to a whole different level of contractor. And so prevailing wage is really a problem for affordable housing. Now, I'm not opposed to prevailing wage, but I think if they really wanted to solve the problem, they would maybe only apply it to over 5 plexes or something like that, but they don't do that. If you build a tiny home, which is what I'm going to propose at the end as a solution, you have to get J.H. Kelly, you know, level union people. If it's a $40,000 house, they'll build it for $100,000 because that's the way that it works, and they don't do it affordably. I know that the most recent from the ground up, I'm gonna say these numbers from my memory. I've consulted with the Housing Authority, and when great deals come on the market for apartments, I've notified the housing authority and said, hey, there's units that are only 140,000 a unit, which that's now cheap. It's hard to believe, but that's about as cheap as you can buy units. They're developing units out off 38th Avenue, and I believe that those are really close to 300,000 a unit is what the final costs were. So I was saying, hey, these are a little bit smaller, but they're less than half the price. Maybe you should do this. And they said, oh, we can't get the funding quick enough to be able to take advantage of that, so we just have to. And the thing is, those units that they paid 300,000 for are not even probably worth 200,000 on the market. You know, I mean, but as cash flow, they might be worth 200, 225, but you know, they end up paying 40% more than really probably what they're worth. It's very sad. So if we can't, you know, deal with that, and that's the way I observe it. We've got national prevailing wage challenges. We've got an extremely egregious state wage, not state wage, onerous environmental regulations. And I'm going to say, I'm not trying to talk you into helping my pocketbook by doing this idea, so I'm just going to tell you the truth. I loved seeing our current president talk to the board, the mayor of Los Angeles, and this might create frustration, but our president was speaking common sense about the stupid environmental governmental rules that were not allowing these people to get access to their property. And there's an enormous fire that wasn't served with fire. There's all these stupid rules, and we have a lot of stupid rules. And I've been following them for 35 years, and I used to look at them and say, hey, I think those have common sense. I think that the rules that the Department of Ecology creates actually make sense. I think it's good that we build better, warmer, more insulated homes. And I think now, I'm going to say after 35 years of being in this game, it is a game, and it's not common sense. And they are serving the planet. They are not serving people. That their priority is some religious, not godly, but a very religious thing. It's like fairy tale. And I don't think that I'm not accusing you of this, but our governmental leaders are not serving the people. And we've got an affordability crisis in housing, in my opinion, that's very intentional. We've got national rules. We've got egregious state rules that are some of the worst. We're a leader in environmental protection for housing that makes some of our housing some of the most affordable, even in Cowlitz County, where we have way more affordable housing than much. And then finally, locally, I really like the new leaders in Longview, but have you guys ever wondered, like I have, why there's not a tiny home community in Washington State that is really cool? Why not? I'll tell you another anomaly. You know that you cannot build an off-grid home in Washington State? If you don't use PUD power, you can't get a building permit, from my understanding. So we have this. We're told we should, you know, follow all the rules of the government and everything is so perfect. But when you really know the rules, like I do, and I don't know everything, but I think we are so poorly served by the rules of our government. And so I think, why couldn't Longview, why can't Cowlitz County provide a model of what tiny home communities could look like? I'm extremely proud of the 3 developments I've done. And if I didn't have a track record of success, I couldn't propose this crazy idea. But I have a crazy idea. You guys have excess land, and you may know of it, you may not know of it. I have a perspective of the history of your land, and I have kind of a crazy idea. And I hope that you'll invite me back to talk about it more. But you've got the fairgrounds over there, and I was actually given a notice by a former city official that said, Larry, you keep talking about tiny homes. I'll tell you a piece of property you should look at. You should look at the end of the fairgrounds by Peardale, because this is over a decade ago. They said, you know, the county paid a consultant to tell us what to do with the fairgrounds, how to make the fairgrounds better, and the consultant couldn't figure out what to do with the last 4 acres of Peardale. So they didn't designate anything to do with it. And so the previous county commissioners, I believe, accepted a grant towards an RV park. And that sounds like a good idea, but I'm going to tell you, as someone who understands the rules as they currently are in the city of Longview, they're some of the most anti-investor rules for RV parks. And so you guys have begun funding an RV park. I think you received some state money, and I don't know all about that. I haven't looked it up. But the city of Longview will not allow any long-term RVers in. And for a municipality, is almost as dumb as a church to own something like an RV park. The church I go to used to have rentals, and yet when people wouldn't pay, they didn't have the heart to get somebody in there that would pay, and it ended up being just a nightmare. And so they weren't making any money on the houses, so they didn't keep them up, so they became an eyesore. And it was just like embarrassing. I said, if you guys aren't going to steward these things, you shouldn't own them. And so I'm not for that particular church to own real estate because they didn't take care of it. But you guys are going to have all kinds of people, if you finish this RV park, that don't have any money. They have they're the druggies and everything that live in these lousy RVs. And I think they're going to have litigation against you if you make random rules of how old their RVs can be or can't be, or how much trouble can they raise in there. So I hope you don't do RVs, but I guess the thing is, I hope you do consider a tiny home development. So whether you just continue the RVs, that's fine. But my idea with the tiny home development is, I would love to see a really high quality tiny home development, and I would like you to ask if I could help you do it. And I actually have worked on this idea for 5 years, but the previous commissioners didn't like it. And so they kind of stockpiled a bunch of money for homelessness and stuff like that, but it actually creates an amazing opportunity because you guys have land and you have money that you need to designate towards people who are disadvantaged with housing. And I think one of the biggest opportunities is, I was talking to Jim Walsh and his legal team about what could be done because I want to see some progress in affordable housing. And I said, Jim, what if a municipality owned land and they did a lease to a developer very affordably, and they developed the underground at prevailing wage, because if you guys do work, you have to pay prevailing wage. But I said, Jim, what if a developer leased a site of land and they agreed to put all the vertical housing with private funding? Is that, if the underground is done with prevailing wage, does the above ground vertical construction require? And he goes, nobody's ever asked that, but I'm going to study it. And a few years back, I got a report back from Jim Walsh's office that, if you don't receive any money going vertical, you can go vertical. So I went to one of the local lending institutions in town. It was a credit union. There's two, or it was three, I think, but there's two big ones. Either one of them would love to do this. I said, what if I came to you with a conservative idea and a land lease, and I built homes on Cowlitz County or the city, I've talked to the city of Longview about it too, on their land, and I didn't make a profit on building the stuff. So I don't know if you understand, but from my perspective as a developer, usually a developer has no ability to influence the ordinances because usually they're viewed as a greedy developer. But here I am, maybe I have been a greedy developer, I am a successful developer, but I'm coming to you saying, I don't care if you don't invite me to do this or not, because I'm going to have to donate over a year of my life and I'm not going to make anything. But I want to see what we could do, because I don't see public-private partnerships when there's transparency and lack of greed. You guys have money. What if I'm egregious enough to say, why don't you do a land lease for me with improved lots on a plan that we both agree to? I would build, say 10 units per acre of tiny homes. If there's 4 acres back there, I could get 40 homes. It would be novel and new because there's no ordinance. So you guys have huge influence, and I would actually have credibility if I wasn't making money. And I would prove that I didn't make any money. And then Rick could understand this, but I would make a commitment, because what we need rentals that are $600 or $700 a month. There's nobody, it's impossible to build new quality domiciles for $600 or $700 a month. And so I would like to build rentals that you guys would own, but I would get to control and build them. I would have transparent vertical use of funds, but you wouldn't have anything to do with it. I mean, you would get to approve it, but then at the end of the 40 years is what I propose, but it's all negotiable. It all comes back to you. That makes it really easy for you to vote. You're spending the money that you've collected on recording fees for your own property for a few years, for a number of years during the effective rest of our lives. Somebody will be monitoring that, and they'll be open to criticism if they don't do it fairly and justly. They will make a profit, because Rick would understand this. When I went to the credit union, they said, well, I know, and he would know, that traditionally a credit union wants a debt service coverage ratio of 1.25. They said, in this situation, that's a weird idea, but we really like it. We'd be open to it. We'd request a debt service coverage ratio of 1.35. So that just means that I would have to make a little bit more of a profit. And so I would live within the constraints of that number, and I would volunteer to produce the records. So that's kind of what I wanted to say, is I have an idea, and I would love to come to you. I actually, 4 years ago, paid an architect and a designer to do a layout, and I have plans already drawn. I've spent thousands of dollars of my own money. And I just think it's really a novel idea. But it would be interesting to me if the city of Longview would help develop an ordinance for tiny homes. That would be great. You know, Oregon's got a bunch of tiny home projects. I'm not saying they're all amazing, but there's pretty nice ones from my observation down at Seaside. I don't know if you've seen those. They're kind of two-story. They're probably about 500 square feet. And what I'm thinking is, for single people and maybe single parents, I'm thinking of homes under 400 square feet. So these homes are not going to be expensive, but what I would envision is 10 units per acre with a really nice community hall, so that if you live in a home that's under 400 square feet, but you have a birthday party, you need a room that's pretty good size, you know? And so it would be something I'd be so proud to put my name on. I would do it with the quality that I've done with every one of my developments. And I just hope that we can work together. And so I won't take any more of your time, but I'd like to come and bug you once a month until you tell me to stop talking about it, because I would love to start next year. If we can come to, and if somebody else takes my idea and you don't work with me, I love it. Because I'm not going to make any money at it. But I have a track record of being able to borrow the millions of dollars, and I would be responsible with it. And I appreciate your time. Thank you. Do you have any questions before I sit down?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
You mentioned to keep the month and the rent down to $600 or $700 a month. How would you control the people that are getting in there? You got to put a lid on, you know, what their income is or their situation is, so that somebody who's well-to-do can't move in there and take
Right.
advantage of it?
You know, Steve, that's a super interesting question, because our former governor made a rule that the first person that is qualified can get in. And it depends on what the rules are then, but I don't want the richest people to be able to do it. I've even thought about that's actually a very unique place where it's actually very livable and walkable. It's one of the few undeveloped neighborhoods that's actually walkable, because, you know, walking to Wenco and there's a bus route. And I've actually talked to the city of Longview. They'd move the bus route to even pick up right there if we wanted to. So, I mean, the whole city and everything is willing to do it, but I would provide a cost of what it did cost to do everything, and then I would show a report to Rick and, you know, you guys, and people would understand who are in banking. There's a debt service coverage ratio of 1.35, so the rents are going to be split out this way. And I think you could explain that. But you know, it's so if the rents end up being 800, because that's the cheapest I could do it, then they'd be 803. If I could do it so they were 603, they'd be 603. You know, it would depend what it costs, because I can't exactly determine it, but it would be a transparent thing. And I'm sure it could be under 800. I think it'd be in the
I'd be more than
700.
happy to look at the information and the numbers and discuss this with you. Uh, I could see some complications and I'd love to hear how you would control, like, somebody, instead of having one car in the driveway, having 6 in a motorhome parked alongside of a mini home. So anyway, yeah, I like your idea.
And Larry, I'd just like to commend you on bringing this forward, because I have to say, I agree with you wholeheartedly that the relationship between the private and the public sector is one that can be further developed, and we can utilize that relationship to help our community if we work together. Obviously, there's some things that are going to have to get worked out, and this isn't the time or the place to go through that. But the thinking outside the box and creativity, I think, is something that we need, given the limitations and all the regulation, everything that the government shoves down our throat. We need to have thoughts and talks like this about how we can improvise and or mitigate some of the stuff that the state imposes on us. And I think it's a great idea with a lot of potential that I would be interested in talking about.
Yeah.
Thank
You, to get affordable housing, what we would consider affordable, you're not gonna be able to stay in the box. You're gonna have to go outside the box, and that's what Larry's proposing, and I don't think there's anybody sitting up here that is concerned about being outside the box. I know you guys well enough that, yeah, I think we'd love to continue talks on that, Larry.
I was to say one last thing. The goal of doing it would be to do it in a transparent way, but also a way that other people could do it as well. So yeah, I've got a track record of success, but after this model, if we're able to do it, was done, the whole goal would be to bring other people to this area and show them, hey, look what could be done. Here's how it could be done. Here's exactly what we did. Here's the template of how we did it. We made a few mistakes. We could do it better, but I want it to be copied. And I'm really excited. So thanks for the response, and I look forward. I'm going to bug you once a month. And so thanks a lot, you guys.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
And that's why we don't have a 3-minute buzzer. You guys have any comments on that, or you want to talk? I think it's an interesting idea. I'd be interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, just again, playing inside and outside the box. My mind goes over again, prefabricated units. That's one of the ways you get through some of the regulations, and you get a workforce that's able to work fast and do things and set them on it. But then when you go to the City of Longview Utilities and you got a $3,000 or whatever the price is for every single sewer line you hook up and other things, you'd have to work with the communities and say, hey, it's a small unit. We're half the price or whatever, and doing things. So there's a lot of things you would have to work with. Regarding the occupancy and the quality, there's pros for having affordable people in there, but in our mixed economy, there's also a good benefit for having truly financially successful people mixing with other people together for synergy and for working together. Because the example, you can talk to people forever, but nothing like saying, hey, when you sit down with someone that is on a kind of a ground for successful level and having some finances in place and budgeting, it sets a good example.
Ron, I would agree with you. And what I'd say to that is, to Larry's idea, I have clients who are making $75,000, $80,000 a year, and they can't afford to buy a house.
Yeah.
And an $80,000 a year job 10 years ago, they would have been able to buy at minimum a middle-class home. And that's no longer the situation. So I think that would happen almost naturally, given, depending on what the rents were. But that's a very good point.
I do have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. I'm always on the negative side of everything, and I don't mean to be, because it sounds like a great idea. But what if you have a fire? How would it be insured, considering is it county or your money is mixed? How would that happen with insurance? And then also, I would like to see it monitored to the fact that there will be no drug usage in this complex, if that's as that's, available. Would that be something that you would be taking care of? Is it going to be a monitored facility or not?
Do you mind if I answer 15 seconds of questions and then?
Make sure the green light's on.
I would love to, I'm going to answer those two questions and then future questions, maybe if I get invited and it's an agenda item, then people could come with all their questions. It wouldn't be any different than any other thing. The county with my imagination would own the land, but it would be insured, and whoever the owner is, which
So they'd be
would be, I would be the owner of the structures temporarily, but when the lease runs out, the county owns the property. So it's a land lease. It's one of the most secure things and one of the best money makers there is. It's a very secure position for the county because they're going to get their land back. And, but it would be my responsibility, my insurance company's problem. And, I really appreciate your question, but I have a number of rentals, dozens, scores of rentals, and I don't mandate that. And I don't, but if people are stupid, they get to find someplace else that's not as good to live. I mean, my neighborhood is, you can talk to the rental property managers. My neighborhoods are the best neighborhoods to live that one person owns the whole street. And they really want to live there. And if they're stupid, they get kicked out. They have to go live at a less good place. So I don't want to control everything that people do, but if they're stupid, they won't get a good thing.
Okay, I appreciate hearing that, but with that, in that vein, then, say that you have somebody, because my grandparents used to be property owners with motels and hotels. And there were times when people would not, and rentals, I should say, with the rentals, they would not pay, next month. So that would be your problem, but the county would be getting their fee every month, but that would be your
Yeah.
problem.
I'm going to just say, and I'm going to not answer more questions I want to take away, but my idea would be the county would give a very simple lease. I'm going to be egregious to say $1 a year or whatever for the opportunity, but I provide very affordable housing, only covering the cost of the vertical. I wouldn't have to cover the cost of the land. And usually the land in the underground would be 35 or 40% these days of what the developer, so that's how come the rent could be, only 60% of what would normally be attained. Maybe it'd be cheaper. Maybe it'd be in the 500s, the rent, but I think it'd be over 600 with the clubhouse. So, but I would love to, I don't mind, answering questions personally, but I don't want to take the.
Okay,
but-
well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It's just that like I say, I'm sorry, I'm a negative person. I just thought if the renters would be in arrears with their payments, would it affect the county? Would you not get your monthly lease? It wouldn't. Okay, that's great then. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, we have Board of Health starting at 10. If there's nothing else, I appreciate Mr. Wood coming in and we look forward to spending more time with him. I think it's a unique concept, a good idea, and we have to, if we truly want to talk affordable housing, we have to do something outside the box and try something different. And I think he's put the work in, and so we look forward to spending more time on that.
Absolutely.
Okay, with nothing else, we will adjourn this meeting, but remember in 15 minutes, Board of Health will fire up. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you. Yeah. You could live there. Yeah.
I'm doing, you know, our governor does not last fine, do that, but I think so.
You kind of like that?
Idea. You know, the single mother say, hey, but just grandma, watch my kids for 2 hours when I go to school, you know, so I think, I don't want a bunch of young, workers who are making us. Well, you know, some of them might be, but like, you know, it's creative, but I would own the. Yeah, the property in the state. But, what's your name? Lance, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm with her and
What's up here? Oh, when you know, that's actually, I know several people. Oh, yeah, well, I can tell you're kind of a. You look like a pretty powerful, but I think
People kept the land, so they leased the property to like a motel, I was thinking like.
Good, well, you're happy,
But they never sold the land.
I see the structure there. Yeah. We need more of it.
Yeah,
So they always just, wherever.
Yeah.
By law, they never leased the land, they always had their land.
I gotta go.
I'll tell you, if you, if you're a patriot, I'll tell you who I am. One thing you need to know is, do you remember when long you had a 4th of July celebration? Well, we did.
Was that COVID?
Yeah, for COVID,
Okay,
I
yeah.
just told, I almost got arrested, like, I was, you know, I said, oh, no, I think we should be able to have.
You'd love to put,
you know, 2020,
things
but
in there,
there's
so
no-
these are
so
people.
that's what I did, and I just, I'm fortunate that I'm in, have a lot of that, and I don't want to not make money when I risk most of my stuff like this.
But you can't buy screwed.
Well,
Kelly, can you do this one again?
We used to have them in that. Everybody wants to do every bedroom, story. They just want this back, this is that. People that only have time, they want to run here. They will hold. To do this, not, then we shouldn't have it all.
Sadly, I just, you know, I just thrown it out there. I just went 40, but it's not too long. I mean, usually land use or whatever. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. What's your name? Take care, nice to meet you. I think I've heard that name before, but I don't know the name. Oh, okay, okay, okay. Larry Wood. No, all of it. I just feel like I have to make an offer that these guys can vote on. That doesn't look like somebody's getting. Now, I will tell you this, the one thing I thought about my mind, let's see, my wife was on crosswalk before, and so she's seen it from the inside, and she saw the frustration. And I think there's a natural person that, I'm gonna have this albatross that I don't make very much money on, that I want to be able to get rid of after a few years. And so I want to be able to trail. They told me, I said, Larry, if you would ever make this a reasonable offer, I think you just have to give it a 2-year time window, close it, and we'll buy it. And so I don't want to, and then to be honest, what I feel like is fair, I never like to totally make, I always make it over 10%, but I feel like you tell me, if I made a great shape margin on what it costs, 5 years before, I don't think that's an outrageous thing. I would limit it to that. Yeah. But how I would do it is, I imagine each house will be, I would repetitively build the same house. They'd be really cute houses, and they would probably be $170 a foot. It's probably what their cost is, and so they would probably cost, say 55,000 a piece, and then probably cost 10,000. Therefore, clubhouse. So maybe it's 75,000 per house. And then so if there was 30 homes, times 75,000. I probably build a house and then finance it, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a big investment. Profit in it. There's other reasons.
Yeah. But I will tell you, it would not be, it would only be risky when I borrow people to do house, and they take it to the credit.
Right.
And then I would do the other half. But I also don't want to open my books up internally. I would for a short term, but once there's no problem after a year, whatever, I'm not gonna do it with a 501(c)(3). Actually created one for this, that I'll tell you what I got to check about. Hey, Neil, how's it going, man? Good to see you. I'm just waiting to shake your hand. Okay, good to see you. Okay, good to see you. Okay, good, that'd be good.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine. We're just talking.
Yeah.
Sure.
After a little bit talking about discussion, it sounds like, I don't know you.
Yeah.
I've heard about you,
Yeah.
but apparently you're quite successful. I need to tell you that I had an idea the last 4 years I came there.
Yeah.
You guys, but anyways, I'm 78, and when I was in there in days, I had a good facility. You remember that? Okay, so it was over on the third. Yes, exactly. It's kind of like your accident. It was one larger like town.
Yeah.
And the state, like your, say, state, 72. Okay, and they would make sure their where they had and then they had there. Correct. And they would then.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay.
And then they would take, the state would give the monitors the money that these people are. But it's. Well, they do that, then, but what I'm saying is that the way that people, the little teeny money, it's like social security.
Yeah.
A little bit of money that they didn't have, if they would give that to them, so that they knew they would have a house. Basically, they knew they would have 3 meals, and they knew that their meds would be taken care
One
of.
thing I don't, I just, I mean, it's, I don't.
But you wouldn't have to do
disagree.
that.
I don't, there's on, same thing, I don't want to be responsible. They can't be
Well,
so.
And I think that's the difference, the fundamental difference in where he's proposing in Cotton Lodge. Cotton Lodge was designed for those that need something.
right, right.
And so he's talking about building housing for those that are.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm kind of.
There's a need for both.
Exactly, exactly. I watched this, but I was thinking even if the person, he didn't have the meals, he didn't have that, maybe it could be one facility. One facility with a great.
What's so funny about that is, I think they think we're not, because they're mine, just like if I go take over the home. I think my friends who are conservatives, they're not.
Yes, I am. I'm sorry, I hope I don't step.
But it doesn't, but my friend, one of my closest friends is Will Morgan. He's been part of the. He said,
It's hard to.
he said, Larry, the billions of dollars that's spent on homeless staff, never improve it. It's gonna absolutely. They don't want somebody to solve this problem. They just want somebody who's
And they
working.
have to sell it, we have to sell it.
Well-
And we don't have a place to put it.
Right, but like what I do. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But, you know, I feel like, I'll let you
I'm
go.
sorry,
Yeah.
I missed your video.
Good morning. Welcome to the Cowlitz County Board of Health meeting. Thank you for coming. Our first order of business is every year at the beginning of the first year, the first part of the year, at the beginning of the first meeting, we are to elect a chairperson for 2025 and then a vice chair. So at this point, I hand it over to our clerk, Kelly, and we're going to do a election.
Nominations will be made from the floor by the board members. Board members need to be recognized by the presiding officer to make a nomination. No second is required. Once all nominations are heard, they will be voted on the order they are received. The vote will be taken for the office of chair first, with the results being announced before we proceed to the vice chair elections. Are there any questions from the board members before I proceed? Nominations are now in order for the office of chair for the Board of Health. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Kelly Lane as chair.
Are there any further nominations for the office of chair? Last and final time, are there any further nominations? Seeing and hearing none, nominations are now closed. The board will now vote according to the order which they received, which was just one. So are there all those in favor of board member Kelly Lane for chair signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstained? So the vote is unanimous, and congratulations, Kelly Lane, for chair. I will now move it over to you for the election of the vice chair.
Thank you for your confidence, and it's very appreciated. I will do my best to serve the public. So the second order then would be to put a vice chair on. The vice chair responsibilities takes over for the chairperson during the chairperson's absence. So nominations for vice chair. I'd like to nominate Rick Dahl for vice chair. Others? I would also add that last year, the vice chair didn't even know he was vice chair. It was never used. So if you feel like it, but any further nominations? Okay, we'll take a vote. One nomination is for vice chair for Rick Dahl for the Board of Health. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? So it's unanimous, and we have our chairs picked. Okay. Thank you all again for coming. We'll get moving here. First thing is to review the minutes. Everybody get a copy of the minutes from the November 26th meeting. I'd like to entertain a motion to accept them. I've gone through them and I've seen a few other people comment that seemed okay. Any questions or changes on the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes from November 26, 2024.
Okay, motion on the floor to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, minutes are approved. Okay. Just, I try not to let things fall off my plate, and so I keep a list. One of the things that's from last year is that the HHS helped add to the website to provide information on water supply, water testing, specifically for arsenic. Gina, you want to come up? I just have a small comment on that. The sources that are put up there, I tried to get water testing. It went nowhere. They referred me up to a place in Tacoma, and so there was, it dead ended, and they didn't call back
For the water labs.
for the water lab.
Oh,
correct?
interesting.
So I did do a little bit of research and found Home Depot and Lowe's. They do sell tests, and they do have one test that has arsenic.
The kits, and then you have to send it,
Yes.
yeah, to the
correct.
lab. Okay.
But that was the readily available one, and I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, yeah, we did update our website with a page specific to arsenic in well water. I think Kelly was going to pull it up really quick. We could just show everybody how to get there, what it looks like. So we'll give that a second to pop up. So this is our main Health and Human Services site. Right now, there's two ways you can get there. You can see right there in the carousel, we have different topics kind of filtering through the foodborne illness. So there's flood safety, and then I'm just letting it cycle. There's pertussis. Yep, you could click it. And then there's dangers of arsenic in well water. So you can click on it right there. You could also click on the menu on the left-hand side, environmental health. And that will take you to that main page, drinking water safety. And then right there at the top, it's arsenic in well water. So we have a link right there. And then we just have information up here about how to detect it. What are the signs? What are different treatment options? We have the water labs linked there, but we'll have to look at that a little more closely. So we have that information up on our website. There's a link to the brochure on there as well, and I brought some hard copies if anyone wants a hard copy of the brochure, Arsenic in Well Water. So we have some of those available. I'll just leave them here. So yeah.
Thanks.
That's the update.
That's new news. I didn't know there was a brochure. That's great. Okay, thank you for that.
Kelly, can I ask a couple questions
Yes,
really
please.
quick? We talked at one point in time about putting a map on the website, I thought, about areas that have higher incidence of arsenic. Is that still going to happen or in the works?
So what we have right now on there is what Kelly had, I think this came up in this group. There was some conversation about arsenic levels connected to mining areas. So there was an existing map that we did link to on our website. We could certainly talk more about like an arsenic heat map. We had talked about that too. So we could look at doing something like that as well.
And I agree with Lorna. I think that would be very helpful to see an arsenic
Mhm.
heat map.
Mhm.
So not just the mines, because
Mhm.
there may or may not be a correlation.
Right.
So just seeing where they kind of are centrally located would be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll look into that a little bit more. I know we'll have to look at what data we have available for the arsenic levels. I know there's a graduate student who's been doing some testing, and I think he's going to be doing some more testing out there. So that might be helpful for that as well. So,
There's one limit to that, though, is because not all wells have been
Mhm.
tested. The map is going to give some false data as far as a hotspot.
it'll be limited, right? So it would only be areas that we have testing results for. Obviously, we don't test all wells. Not all wells are tested. So it would only be wells that we have testing data for. So there would be a big caveat there with.
Perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Is that a county or a state site that records that?
So we get some test results, right? So if individuals voluntarily test their well and they happen to report that to us, then we would have that data. As from what I know right now, there's not a state site or an existing site that identifies areas for high arsenic. So it would be something that we would be creating.
So the heat map would be something you're going to have to generate,
Right.
and it would be limited only to the test results that you somehow have access to, not what the state has?
Right. I actually, I don't know what the state has for arsenic levels and testing. We could ask, but I'm not sure what that looks like with
There's
what data they
also,
have.
there's also, I sent 2 links that has some maps that are already there. I'm not sure who made them. I believe it was a mining society. And had some ready-made stuff, and that was my suggestion.
Yeah, those were for mining areas. So yeah, if we're looking at arsenic levels would be different app. Mhm.
So as long as it's been tested, even if it's a 0 and you have those results, it'll show up on the map?
No, I would envision only if there was a higher level, like only an area where we would want people to be aware of. If it has come back, if we have results that showed a elevated level of arsenic. I mean, that's open for discussion though. If we also wanted to say like, there has been testing in this area and it's not been detected, I mean, that might be helpful for people to know as well. Or there's been testing here and there were higher levels of arsenic. So we could look at either way.
I think it would be helpful to have both info, because if you
Mhm.
see a hotspot, you only know that that's what's been tested that comes out positive. You
Sure.
don't know if a mile away, it's been tested and negative.
Sure.
So I think it'd be helpful to see both the plus and minuses on the map.
The hot and the cold.
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful to see everything that's been tested. If you've got the information, I'd put it all on the map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, we'll take a look at what data we have and what that might look like and see what options we have there.
And has there been any advertisement, social media or anything to tell people that this is a service that's available? I wouldn't even think to go to the website and look at it if I hadn't.
We've been doing some social media posts, so we've had some posts going on our Facebook page with with a link to our website, as well as just getting some pieces of the information we have on our website, posting it out in social media. So we'll continue to do that regularly, just kind of cycle through that information on social media that way. Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much on that.
Mhm.
And I just want to give credit where it's due. The map idea came from Karen. She had a great idea, which I thought. You have a comment on the water?
Just a quick note, I believe there are either county or state regulations for testing on shared wells. So individuals are individual, but shared wells, it's either 2 or a number. So you might just get updated on that regulation.
Thank you. Without any more comments on the water testing, thank you very much for that. Next item up is what we've talked about it before a couple times, is the Youth Substance Abuse Prevention Project. This is kind of near and dear to my heart. I think preventing the youth from abusing substances, which include vaping, alcohol, tobacco, drugs, whatever it is, prevention is the key. I don't think we're going to ever stop everybody from doing it. So if we can try and prevent it, a pound of prevention, or excuse me, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's what I've always been raised with. So I've got not exactly a presentation, but a couple things on there. Kelly, can you put that first picture up? I'll just read the beginning of it as an introduction. A reality party for parents. Take a tour through a local home set up to portray a teen party with youth actors playing out scenarios and voicing concerns expressed by local teens and adults. 30-minute tours will start every hour and will be followed by a 30-minute debrief and discussion for a total of 1 hour participation, 7 to 10 tours a day. And this is a picture of one of the parties that has been put on. And now I'd like to go to that video. The next thing we're going to show is a video. Let's make sure the sound is on as well. Something's happening with that picture. This video that's coming up is very old, actually, several, more than 10 years old. The names have been changed in there, but it's a short 1.5-minute video, and it really gives a concise view of what this project that I'm talking about is.
Straight Up uses its improv troupe to reenact scenarios that take place every weekend at parties across the country. These reality parties are designed to educate parents about the dangers of mixing kids with alcohol.
Each of the vignettes hit a completely different aspect of the party. Peer pressure, daring each other, I won't like you if you don't do this, and seeing them cave under that, that's just heart-wrenching.
One of the things that happened also in the evening was that they had the cops coming in. Someone had called them and had indicated to the owner that she was now going to be charged because she was allowing underage drinking, and that she could get up to a $2,500 fine, which that was great. You know, I'm thrilled to death to hear that there's that kind of thing out there that parents can call.
In the fight to prevent underage drinking and the problems associated with it, educating parents is just the first step.
We need to change what parents think is acceptable, and I think it's very important to warn parents about it and tell them that they should not be throwing these type of parties, allowing kids to drink, thinking it's okay to give drinks to other people's kids.
Straight Up Ventura County also reaches out to youth in the community through workshops and discussions that address their concerns about underage drinking. For Time Warner SoCal News, I'm Kathy Harton.
So this idea of a reality party, it's put on by students for adults. I attended one with my wife many years ago when my daughter was in high school, and it still, when I talk about it, makes my hair stand up. Talks about when, for example, if a girl passes out at a party, there are certain, I don't know, rules, ideas that if their shoes are left on, that you're supposed to stay away from that. If their shoes are off, they're free game. Towards the end of this party, as we're going from room to room, the actors put on this party in front, and you see them do everything that's going on in the schools today. And towards the end, as we're watching, you see everybody has calmed down. There's been fights. There have been people that are passing out and throwing up and fighting over the keys to drive. So you shouldn't drive, and girls calling their mom saying, please pick me up, and the mom won't pick them up. And at the very end, there's an older gentleman, not too, I should say, older than teenage, but he's definitely not a teenager, walking in, eating some chips, and he sees, see, it still chokes me up a little. He sees a girl passed out on the couch, and he starts walking over to her. He's been invited on Facebook through, because the kids are advertising a big party, and he walks over, and then lights go out, and that's the end of it. But it's very impactful. I've talked to Castle Rock High School. I wasn't sure where to exactly start. I've talked to Castle Rock High School, their the school district board, as well as the principal and the theater teacher in Castle Rock. And I've talked to some other people about this on the board. And this project, I think I'd like to try it. I think it's a good idea. It's never been tried in Washington State. It has lots of success in several other states. It's a group it's a nonprofit organization that puts that on and will come up here and teach us how to do this. The cost is $10,000, which is a big chunk of money, but in the scope of county business, it's not that much in my opinion. But that $10,000 will fly these people up. They will put on this show or this reality party for us using the student actors. Students can get social service credits. Was that the right term? Community service hours, sorry. Community service hours. So they will get something out of it. It's a lot of fun. It's, and the people that come up to train us for this one-time fee of $10,000 will leave it into our county's hands and to the school's hands. And after that, it's only $240 per well, per year if they do it once a year, just for a royalty fee for the script. So it's a one-time investment to get the people up here to train us and train the schools. And then after that, it's really pretty minimal cost. And I'd like to see if the board likes this idea. And if we do like this, I'd like to kick it over as a recommendation to the commissioners to fund it. So I'd like to open the discussions.
Kelly, you mentioned that they'd had a lot of success in other areas they've done that. What is success? What is that? How's that defined? How are they measuring that?
From what I've seen, they've had feedback from the parents who attend this. There's also the law enforcement. I have just one document that I got, which was recommendations from several sheriffs and police saying that it has had effect. I forgot to mention that after the party, after the play, the parents go out to be debriefed by a policeman, and the police or sheriff will be there on hand, and he will give us the real nitty-gritty of what's really going on and talk to the parents about what's happening. So as far as success, proven success, I only have one document that I can send, and I'll send that to the board later today. But it has, I can say from me and my wife and my kid, it was very impactful, and all the parents that we attended with at the party, we were all pretty shocked, and it really got a conversation going. Furthermore, every time I presented this little presentation to people, I haven't received any negative comments on it. So most people think that it seems to be a pretty good idea. And so I thought I'd like to try it.
Kelly, for the sake of conversation, I like the program. I think it's a good program. I just have a couple of questions that I want to bring up that we can discuss. As I watched the presentation when we watched it before, one of the thoughts that came to my mind is my mom and dad raised us in a home where the expectation was, this is what we don't do and this is what we do. And as a teenage boy, it was at my discretion what I was and wasn't going to do. And I think we can all look back at our teenage years and recollect that we were going to do what we were going to do in spite of our parents' wishes. And so my question with this is really aimed towards the parents and not so much towards the kids. And I feel like I would like to see something that would be directed more towards the children, only because the one thing that I did get out of it that I really, really liked is the holding parents accountable that are having these parties. That one I really do agree with. I just personally feel that I would like to see a program that is more directed at the children. Since you talk about an ounce of prevention, I think that is one way that we need to that's the direction that we need to go. Now, whether or not this is the first step or not, I don't know. But just for the sake of playing the devil's advocate with here, if we're going to spend $10,000, I want to have a conversation about, is that really the best direction that we can go with $10,000?
What I would say is two things. One, there is the principal and the, of Castle Rock and the teacher, the theater teacher that was there, as well as the Castle Rock school board director. They have said that they would include a week or 2 weeks, something in the health class that would be before the party would perform, before the performance, and they could talk about that. That's the one thing. So we have an in that they are open and willing to work with us in the health class. Secondly, I see someone from ESD 1112. They also do a yearly, the yearly youth summit. So there already is a presentation. It's an all-day event that is being done through through Cowlitz County Schools. It selects 200 or more than 200 kids. Would you like to give a quick brief talk on it? Please come. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but since it was asked, what else can we do to actually help the students?
Yeah, there are 3 community prevention and wellness initiative coalitions focusing in our county, focusing on the prevention of youth substance use, together with partnerships with so many amazing organizations in the community. We do yearly offer a regional youth leadership and prevention summit to 6th graders. It is a day about team building, learning some leadership skills, along with some education about drug and alcohol use. Thank you so much for bringing up the point that this program seems much more beneficial, if there's any benefit to it, to the adults, to put youth in the situation where they are role-playing things. Sorry, I'm getting emotional about that. Things that we never want our children put in the position to. Putting a young girl in a position where we're implying that she has been assaulted. We should never role play with our youth. Not only does it go against prevention science, it's just not good for our youth.
It's the reason that they went away from the every 15 minutes program. It's
Yes.
actually on our list of don't participate in, and was taken away as an activity every year in our communities. That role-playing scenario is greatly looked down upon in the prevention world. We receive an excellence in prevention list of do's and don'ts from the Division of Behavioral Health and Recovery, who we are essentially receive our funding through ESD, and we have to follow those guidelines. So while I think there's a benefit to this, especially for adults, I don't think that this is a benefit to youth. It is not something as a coalition that we would be able to support whatsoever. So I know that you and I had talked on the phone, and I had pointed you in the direction of the high school, not really knowing. I am a little disappointed that the high school has agreed that this would be something. Have you talked with our student assistance professional? Have you talked directly with the superintendent? Because I don't see either of those two supporting this. That's just my own personal opinion.
So what do you do for the parents? I hear you say you're doing things for the kids. What do you do for the parents? Awareness.
We have done town halls. We do community events where we are handing out information and talking to parents. We do drug takebacks, talking about whether you have prescription drugs in your home, whether you have edibles, whatever, keep them out of the reach of your youth. We offer parenting programs. Oh. Each coalition makes some different choices. So I said that we have 3. Lindsay is with the Castle Rock Care Coalition. I'm with Kelso's Highlander Hope Coalition. And then our counterpart, Sarah, who's not able to be here today, is with Longview's Epic Coalition. So each coalition does things that are slightly different that their community members want for their community. So.
And essentially, we're governed by a coalition of members that represent 12 sectors from across the community. Our first step well, right now, we're actually rewriting our strategic plans. Our first step in rewriting the strategic plan is looking at the Healthy Youth Survey data and where our communities need help. We also look at our community survey, which really is taken by those 18 and older. After going through that data with our coalition members, getting input from the community, I know for me, the school is the hub of my community. So working very closely with the principals and administration, we then decide what programs do we need to support the data that we're seeing. So right now, one of the things that we recognized was years ago, we got rid of strengthening families because it was not well received in our community.
Can I get you to use that microphone a little? I'm getting about 3 out of 5 words you're saying.
Sorry about that. We held strengthening families program for years in our community, and it kind of phased out where people stopped attending. So in looking at our data this year, we saw we have a really big need for parenting programs again. So as we're rewriting the strategic plan, the coalition had to decide which parenting programs do we want to bring back into our community. So we're currently looking at 2 of them, Guiding Good Choices and a program called Parenting Wisely that's currently being done in Kelso, moving forward. So that's just a small parent piece. That does include town hall meetings. Last year, we had a group of students that got together and put together a presentation on the dangers of fentanyl and held a town hall in our community. It was actually the biggest town hall that has ever been attended by adults in our community. Normally we get like 10 to 15. We had roughly almost 70 parents show up to this event. So those are the ways that we're guiding kids to be involved to help us educate parents. We also push out things through the Skyward, different flyers, how to talk to your kids about drugs. We have resources that are available, and we try to make sure that the parents in our community know about those things.
And we're actually looking at a documentary, if you will, called Screenagers, and bringing that to our community. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
For anybody if any of you would like to see it, we are setting up a screening for stakeholders in our community to help us decide if it's something we want to bring. So I'd be happy to share that information with you.
Forward that when you're going to.
Yes. We're going to be limited to how many people can watch it. So I kind of need a commitment from you so that we can make sure that we get it out to as many people that would be interested as possible. But we're considering bringing that too. And that's, again, directed at parent education primarily.
And I was just going to say, again, anything that we do in any program that is put on our action plan has to be approved by the Division of Behavioral Health and Recovery. We are required to select our programs off of the evidence-based list. Any innovative program has to be approved, and it goes through a whole approval process. We do a program called Career Beginnings, which essentially before COVID was really matching up youth with people in the workforce for this mentorship. COVID happened, we had to adapt that. Now our biggest thing is our career fair. I right now cannot keep that on my action plan unless it is approved through Mentor Washington. So I'm currently getting ready to start the process of working with Mentor Washington to essentially give their stamp of approval to continue this program. But again, anything and everything that we do has to be approved through DBHR.
So I appreciate your concern about the role-playing issue, but I guess I would also ask, by the time kids are in high school, what's your evidence base show you how many people have had alcohol?
So
How many high school kids have drank before they got into high school?
you can actually find that information at askhys.net, and it will give you county level data. So it will tell you exactly what the 12th graders in Cowlitz County are answering to some of those health youth survey data questions. They do ask, have you ever used alcohol? Have you used alcohol in the last 30 days?
Yeah, I have it here. It's 33% drank alcohol in the past 30 days.
Yeah, I'm aware that it's very high. What my point is they wouldn't be role playing necessarily something that they haven't already done. So I can't agree with you that the role playing thing is a big issue for something that most of them have already done multiple times. Now, you're asking high school kids to do this. You're not asking teenager kids in middle school or something that have never done it. You're asking people who have the experience to sit and demonstrate and illustrate to parents. And I think that that visual is a lot more impactful than handing them a flyer and say, please go home and read this.
And so that's why I'm glad you brought that up, that we should talk about what we can do for the youth. And the ESD, which is a government entity, is doing that, and they're doing a good job. I've attended one of their seminars, and so this is a totally different approach, focused on the adults. And I would ask that you continue what you guys are doing, and then to try and move forward with this new approach as well, that's going to be to stopping, to alerting the adults and raising awareness for the parents of what's really going on. So thank you for your testimony.
Yeah, I was just gonna say really quick, you said it was 33% of 12th graders.
That was the last statistic produced by Peace Health.
So
By Peace Health?
In the last 30 days, 33%.
Drank.
okay, so that would mean that 77% are reporting that they have not drank.
In the last 30
60
days, in the last 30
Right,
days.
Right, which
But it-
is the majority, by far the majority. You're talking about 2/3 having not.
So my question would be, how are you gonna pick those out that have drank alcohol? Are you gonna go around and say, who of you have drank alcohol?
I don't think it matters if they've drank or not. It's going to be the student actors will be people who are supporting resistance against substance abuse. It would be an act. I mean, when I was in high school, we did many adult plays with adult themes, so I don't see that as a problem at all. Besides, it's being performed in front of adults, not students. So I don't think it's going to be an issue.
I just have one question. You said every 15 minutes. Can you clarify what that is?
Every 15 minutes was a program. It was a partnership with the sheriff's office. They would come in and essentially they would create like a mock car crash out in front of the school. They would put the vehicle that had been completely demolished in front of the school. Then when students showed up at the school, they would see this car that's been smashed. And throughout the day, the Grim Reaper would come through dressed in his big Grim Reaper outfit, and he would go through and essentially he would take the life of someone in a classroom, and their grave would be put up on the board. And so it was supposed to represent every 15 minutes, someone is killed because of drunk driving. So at the end of the day, I'm not sure how many kids exactly it was. I know I participated in high school. I want to say there was like 22 of us by the end of the day that had been killed due to drunk driving. We were then taken off-site overnight and essentially put in a hotel. So our absence was felt by the community as well as our peers. We would put together a skit. We had to write letters to our parents, essentially as if we had passed away. The letters were left behind for our parents. So like, my understanding is if I were to pass away tomorrow, the sheriff's office still has the letter that I wrote to my parents 20 how many ever years ago. What we didn't know at the time was, as we were at the movies, planning our skit, writing our letters, someone's parents in our group had received a visit from the sheriff as well as a chaplain. And they showed up at the house of that person. They often, like if it was me, they would take like a necklace. They would go to my parents' house and tell my parents that while we were crossing the street going to the movie, that I had passed away, and play it out until they told my parent it really did not happen. And the next day, that parent would be invited to the assembly to share thoughts, feelings, and emotions with the group. The seniors, this was for seniors only, got to attend the presentation the next day. And one of the things that we did was we did role play a huge party scene. In fact, I got to be the drunk person. I'll never forget being the drunk person. And to be honest with you, at that point, I had never been drunk. So I did not know what it was like. Then they would have like a victim, not a victim, I'm sorry, a family member of someone who really had died, come up and speak what that was like. And then the family of the student who got the fake visit would then get up and talk. And essentially that was the end of the 24-hour long program. So I hope that clarifies.
And how long was that being done?
It was actually done for years until schools stopped participating in it because they didn't feel like their kids were really getting anything out of it. And then DBHR came in and was like, this again is not a best practice. And by that point, most of the schools had already backed out of it with even receiving the prevention science that it was no longer effective. So I was a part of it my senior year, which was 1999. So,
You know what the cost of running that program? You know what the cost of running that program was at that time?
I do not.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So Kelly, if I may, I have a question.
Please.
So the reality party idea, if I understand right, it's primarily geared towards the parents. And my assumption here, so I need it to make sure it's correct, is that what you're trying to do is help parents not sponsor these kind of parties. So that triggers then my question, is this happening? I guess maybe I'm so naive. Is this happening a lot where parents are sponsoring these parties? And is this a primary place where we should be focusing versus kids making choices?
Excellent question. One of the people that I have been speaking with that is supportive of this project is a drug counselor from Kelso High School. Lindy, who's sitting here, would like to speak too. She and I actually went to one of his presentations, and he gave all kinds of evidence of what's going on. And yes, they are still doing lots of parties. The Castle Rock principal told me that they do them a lot, often not necessarily in a house, but just go out into a field. And one of the problems that I see is that specifically with vaping and marijuana is that now with the vaping cartridges, it's much easier to conceal. And so kids are getting away with doing it right there at school. They even make hoodies, a hoodie thing with it built into the drawstring. So you can smoke right there and people won't see it, they won't smell it. And so, yes, these things are still going on. If we approve this idea, the part of the effort will be for this group to show us people in the schools that can kind of tell us, and that's where they get a lot of the knowledge from, is the schools. Kids are going to tell us, oh yeah, this is going on, and they will address that into the play.
Well, I want to tell you a story and see if I can get through this without being too emotional. My youngest daughter got invited. I was out of town at the time. I came home and find out that my wife had let our youngest daughter go to a overnight sleepover to some friends in Kalama. And I said, well, did you meet the parents? We always had a rule with our older kids that we always had to meet the parents. We had to feel comfortable. We had to know what was going on. No, it was a girlfriend from high school who had her driver's license that was going to her house, and she came by and said hi, and can the daughter go? My wife turned her loose, and my alarm bells went off. And I said, we need to go get her. This is not right. And I made my now ex-wife, I made her call the parents' house. The phone got answered several times, and when asked to talk to an adult, got hung up on. Finally, the third or fourth phone call, after being very persistent, got an adult on the phone. I swear I could hear boys and girls at this place in the background. I just said, we have to go get her. My wife convinced me, no, we're not going to do that. Everything's fine. The parent said, the boys are leaving, da, 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 da. The day after, when my daughter got home, my alarm bells had not calmed down, and I cornered her and had a bit of a conversation with her, and both drinking, smoking, and sex had gone on all night long, and that was my daughter's first sexual experience. And I was infuriated, but not at her, but very upset with my wife. And so I told my daughter, I said, you have to go tell your mom what happened. You go do it. It's your responsibility, and you go tell her. About, I don't know, a month later, I found out that she never did tell mom, which then mom, when she finally, I sat them both down and said, you know, the daughter's got something to tell you. You need to know this information. Because I had known that information for a month was one of the primary reasons my wife divorced me, that I had hidden that information from her. And I had not intentionally done that, but it became a bone of contention. But the big thing that I want to emphasize to you is yes, my daughter was involved with going to a friend's house, and they supplied the alcohol, they supplied the drugs that were there, they supplied the tobacco that was smoked, and they provided the house full of boys and girls that stayed, and they allowed the sexual orgy basically taking place all night long. When I found out the details of this, I was never so upset about a situation in my life as something like that, that I knew something was wrong. Like I said, my alarm bells went off. How my ex was comfortable with it to this day, I still don't know. But typically a parent's intuition triggers that sense of awareness that you know when something's not right. And in that case, I got to tell you, I failed my daughter miserably. And I never have forgiven myself for it. Anyway, so yes, those things still happen. This has only been 12, 13 years ago.
The drug counselor told us as well that most of the time, because marijuana now is so easily available, I said, are the kids going into the shops and just buying it? And says, no, their uncles give it to them. And so that's what happens. Would you like to say something?
Well, I just want to say that the CARE Coalition does a lot of great things. I've been to a couple of youth summits, and that's one of the tools in the toolbox, as far as I'm concerned, a very good one. But after I saw the reality party and talked to Kelly about the gut-wrenching effect it had on him, and it seemed to really leave an impression on me that there has to be a variety of ways of approaching this drug and alcohol issue. And I don't think it would just be alcohol. I think the party would include the fentanyl and everything else that is not reducing. I don't think we're getting a lot of good stats that are showing that we're making a big difference yet. I hope we can. But I do see it as a very effective tool, and the actors would be like actors in any play at high school. And if you've been to any high school plays lately, some of them have nasty stuff in them that role-playing would be a real concern that they'd pick up. And that isn't really, seems to be ever an issue. So I hear what you're saying. But in reality, you would pick kids that are mature and can handle it. And I can see it be a screening process. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity to see. California isn't it California, Kelly? It's had a lot of success with it.
California is where the organization is, actually in Nevada, and they've done it in Colorado.
And that tells me that something's working or they wouldn't still be producing these. And I just see that there's some things missing that we can't quite get to. And I think parents might be kind of curious about these programs, this particular program. They go, wow, let's go see what that's all about. And it may do the gut-wrenching effect on them that it did on Kelly, and they wouldn't take for granted that my daughter, I don't think she ever did drugs or alcohol, but to this day, I don't know. And if I had a party like that to go to, I think it would have made me much more concerned. I'd be more aware and say, wow, maybe she could be doing this stuff. So it's just my opinion that I think it's just one more tool in your toolbox. It's not the answer, but it's a piece. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do the schools still do national assemblies that are sponsored, that come around and put on impactful events? The reason I ask, I've still never forgotten one while I was in high school where a gentleman who was an excellent storyteller in his presentation came around and did an assembly, and I graduated from Castle Rock High School, and all of the high school students were in that gym, and he told a story about imagine you're out on a Friday night with your football buddies, and you've been drinking a little bit, and you come around into this dead end where it's a favorite parking spot, and there's a car parked there, and you come to realize that there's a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship going on in the backseat of the car, and your buddies open the car, and they drag the guy out, and they start taking turns one at a time going through the car. And as it's your turn and you're unzipping your pants and you're getting ready to go into the car, you realize that that's your sister. I have never forgotten the impact and I didn't tell it anywhere near as good as that gentleman did, but you got the gist of it, where for all the men, all the young men in that gym, got an instant picture of the problems that they could get themselves into just by that gentleman doing an excellent presentation and talking about how young kids in a group, young men in a group, get themselves into trouble, and then the realization of now it's personal, and by the time you get there, your sister's dead. So I'm wondering if the schools still do national assemblies that help kids understand that type of reality, and especially in this day and age with all the drugs that are involved, for God's sakes. The vaping stuff scares the crap out of me. I don't think it's just like cigarettes. How many years did we go down the road with people smoking cigarettes before we come to the realization and the truth that was probably known for many years of what the dangers of smoking were? Where are we going to be when vaping comes out, and figure out if there's really any serious problem with it? Is it worse than smoking? I can't even imagine when you're vaporizing something and all the crap they can put to a vape pen now. I can't even imagine what that can turn into.
Fentanyl. They can vape fentanyl as well.
And isn't that refreshing?
So I think it's a good idea to try something new that has some success. Would you like to say something?
I'm wondering, on this $10,000, is that a one-time thing that would cover the whole Cowlitz County? And then each school district within Cowlitz County would pay the $240 every year thereafter?
That's correct. It's $10,000 to get this organization to come up with 4 people, the hotel, and train the school and whoever else is going to be involved, the police as well.
And so they would be training all 6 of the districts within Cowlitz, or just Castle Rock?
Well, the plan is for them to come up one time, and that one time $10,000, and I have only approached just Castle Rock High School as opposed to trying to go after every other school district. But I think what we could do is invite the school district from the other districts to that reality party. And if they are willing to take it on, then yeah, it would just be a script fee, $240. But I envision it as a one-time $10,000.
Yeah, if it could be that one time and not $10,000 for
Yeah, no.
each district, it wouldn't
No,
be
no.
cost effective. But
No.
I think you've got something going, something really to consider and to think about.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi. Sorry, I'm late to the activity. I have part of my job at 4-H is we had a state meeting, so I need to participate in that. A little bit of what I'm hearing is it sounds like maybe a project to partner with the schools. Am I hearing that correctly?
It's a project, it's what they call the reality party.
Okay. So, because I've been working in the prevention field for quite a long time, and assemblies in schools are not the most effective prevention strategy. The other piece is, and I'll say this as a school board member, I'm not, because I've been doing this for a while, silly me, is what I think if you're looking at a project like this, you really need to get the superintendents around the table because schools have so much more they have to deal with. And, it's sometimes doing things in schools is not the best prevention strategy. Also, schools are having to deal with quite a bit of, curriculum and stuff. So just a word of caution, assemblies are not, from the prevention world, is not the most effective strategy. It's really important to look at the funds that you have. I'm assuming it's either the opioid funds, sorry I'm late, is that when you look at programs that have been proven to be effective, what we say in the prevention field, best practices. They've been proven to be effective by research. And the other piece is that it's just in the prevention world is do good strategic planning, look at your data, look at your gaps, design programs that best fit the needs of Cowlitz County. And you have 3 coalitions in Cowlitz County they have to put together a plan. They look at the Healthy Youth Survey as their basis of what are our challenges, and then to design a program that meets the needs of the community. So those are some thoughts that I have, and sorry I'm late to the conversation. I had to balance my real job. Well, it's just all my real jobs. So anyway, but thank you for listening. And I'm willing to, and I've had a good conversation with Commissioner Dahl because he's a liaison to the extension office, is that I don't have any fight in the game as far as a funding standpoint, but I'm willing to provide technical assistance or support because of my passion towards prevention and what puts youth at risk and what puts families at risk. So anyway, and the best part is providing that technical support, I'm free because I work for WSU, and you guys, of course, are a significant funding partner.
Thank you very much.
Do we currently have ordinances like contributing to the delinquency of a minor? Do we have anything like that currently in the county?
Social host ordinances is what they call it, and I've asked that question and I don't know the answer. I think we have to ask the police, maybe.
I'm sure we got piles of ordinances that probably go miles into the sky, so I'm sure there's something in there. There is a couple comments, so I know Ron's up there. One comment came in, I think he would want to review the script before making a commitment. Another comment, I've been doing some online research during this meeting. I see no research or evaluation results on straight up Ventura County. We used to have party patrols in Washington, but I can only find research on college-based programs. The only lit review study I can find on the issue is from 2016, i.e. there is nothing very current. Those are just comments that came in.
Please.
The voice of experience as parental opportunity and role, there's no problem with us as parents knowing two things for any of these events. Where is your son or daughter at? Just a simple address. And showing up at one of those places just periodically once in a while. The voice of experience, we and my daughters will joke about it right now, but when a parent, don't have to make a big crisis out of it, but if you show up, they know you're there and they know that you care. That impact alone is significant.
Thank you. Good comment.
This probably isn't going to be popular, but that's never stopped me before. I'm kind of on the line, I think where Ron's heading here is we're asking, schools to me are very simple. They're to prepare your child to get along in this world to work and stuff. And quite frankly, I think it's failing. We've added training programs at my previous work just to teach them how to add and count back change because that was part of our business. We've turned our schools into social experiments or whatever. We're asking them to do the parents' job. And that just drives me crazy. I want schools to teach our kids the basics. So when they get out, they have some skills from shop to math to whatever. Stop this social nonsense. And we're trying to go down that road. And so I have issues with that. And so that's my piece. I told you it probably wouldn't be popular, but that's what it is.
That's how you view this program, as social?
This is the parents' purview. If I have trouble where my kid's going, I go over to the place and I say something about it.
Okay, but this is focused on the parents, right?
Then why are the schools involved? If you want to focus on the parents, focus on the parents.
The schools.
But you're asking the schools to put this on.
No, no.
Yeah, you are. You asked Castle Rock to put it on.
We asked them for their approval if they would support it, and then we would ask for student actors from all the district. And it's not necessarily, the Castle Rock would put it on, actually. What we only asked the Castle Rock school to do would be send out the invitations to the parents. So that's the only role of the school, is that they would be sending out.
I'm just pretty clear on, I think our schools have gotten way out of line and where we need them. And this, you keep opening this door and it just gets wider and wider and wider. And now you have, and I go to the schools and I speak against these policies 3210, 3211s, where if you have a kid that comes in and tells you that I don't want to be Jill anymore, I want to be Jim, that they have to be addressed that way. They have to be accommodated in sports. They have to be accommodated in the locker room, and they don't even have to tell the parents. Get the schools out of that nonsense. And all I ever get, well, it's an RCW. It doesn't make it less evil.
I agree with you in that, but to clarify, the school in this case is only going to be sending out the invitation that the coalition or that the project would come up with.
Yeah.
The school.
Kelly, I don't crack those doors because I know what happens when you crack those doors. They open, and then you're all kinds of mess. The schools are for educating their kids so they can come out and they can join a workforce and they can do the job. The parents' job is to teach them social rights and wrongs. It's not the school's job. And that's just where I stand.
I get you, but like I said, it wouldn't be the schools doing it.
Okay, we can go back and forth,
No,
but just
I see your point.
I tell you guys all the time, my job, I figure My job, I try to be open and honest about what I believe. Your job is to decide whether you like it or not. It's a very easy relationship.
Please.
It's hard to imagine, a parent, supporting any kind of, party like that. It's even harder for me to imagine that that parent would go to a presentation.
May I, I
Please.
did some research on a social host law in Washington State, and it does have a social host liability law for underage guests under the age of 21. If you are a social host and you knowingly serve or provide alcohol to underage guests, you could be liable for any damages or injuries they cause. Penalties can be a fine of up to $5,000 and 1 year in jail. And I do want to comment that that was one of my concerns also, is I think that this is a good idea, and I like the idea that we need to attack this problem from many different angles. And I kind of struggled with, are we going to get the right parents to this kind of a showing? And that's still a big question of mine, right? Because those that are responsible parents aren't doing it in the first place. And the responsible parents are the ones that usually partake in these kind of offerings. However, I will say that if responsible parents, meaning not responsible for being the social hosts, right? But responsible for trying our best to do right by our children, it will, one of the benefits I could see is it would at least facilitate communication between parents and children. Is this occurring? Is this happening to you? What can we do to help protect you in these situations? But that would be a corollary positive from it. I really think that it doesn't target those that are being the social hosts. That's my concern.
I'd probably agree that the people that are socially hosting these parties not going to want to come, but it's more for the conversation starting, gathering parents that have not believed that their kids are going to these parties, and get their conversation together with the police and saying, hey, this is what's happening, and you need to talk to your kids about that.
All right. So I don't know, there's a lot a person could say about all this stuff. I guess I survived all those years of good times, and I want to say, as you guys would know, I'm standing with Rick on this one. You know what I mean? It's not the school's job to get involved in this. They got enough to do. It's just like, you're just going to add one more thing. It's cost, it's like you got this cost. But if they're going to have to invite all the parents, well, how are they going to do that? What's that going to look like? Is that going to be an email? Is it going to be a flyer? Is it going to be, is there going to be posters at the school? Tell your parents to come to this thing. I'm just saying, there's there's additional cost that goes along with that. And the fact is that, again, this is not the school's job. It's not government's job. It's not the school's job. What your relationship is, if you're a parent and your kid is out doing these things, you're the kind of parent that your kid is going to go out and do those things. It's just, you're not going to change it. The parent can feel bad. You can say, oh, you're letting your kid get out here. It's not the place. These guys here, these ladies, they have been doing it for a while. They know what they're doing, and I don't think you're costing us any money either. It's a big bonus,
No.
I don't know if that part's true.
That's not.
But all I'm going to just rehammer my usual thing. This is not government's job. It's not the school's job.
So Tim, before you run off.
Okay.
So the health department should not be concerned with drug awareness or alcohol problems. The schools shouldn't be doing it either. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. Those are the things that kids need to go to school to learn. You send these kids to school, and then, you can say all these kinds of things about it. I could go on all day, but we're all aware of it. School is like this big social activity, but the school's job is to teach three things, and they're not teaching that now. And the horse has left the stable for what you guys are talking about on this. The horses already are gone. And you're gonna try and create some experiment, a new program, just gonna cost $10,000 this time, and then just $240 a year. And again, I'm with Rick. I'm just backing you up, my friend. It is not the government's job. It's not the school's job. You're just piling more stuff on these guys.
Okay, so it's not the health department's job either, right?
No, it's not. In fact, with all due respect, Gina, I don't think we need a health department at all.
Kelly, Kelly,
Yes.
because I think I misunderstood too. I thought Castle Rock School was somehow taking this on. Who's coordinating it then? Who's the lead person? Who's gonna set it all up? Who, if it's not the school district?
The, so far, it's just been me spearheading it. When we start talking with other people, like I said, we have a counselor from Kelso High School, and the principal of the Castle Rock High School. The coroner has expressed interest as well to help out. It would kind of develop. Right now, we just need the people to come up to kind of train us to see who we need, because I don't want to do it myself, the whole thing. And then hopefully there will be people maybe from ESD 112 that would help, and the Castle Rock School Coalitions that would help continue the program.
Saying they would do it like as community volunteers, or they would do it as part of their school
No,
district
it's
position?
volunteer work. This is all volunteer so far from what I've seen. Everything will be volunteer. And as far as the schools being involved, I told the school directly, the only thing we would want them to do is mail out the invitation. Please.
I can see both points. I was told many times before, because as I talk, that the government, county, there's a limit to what they should be doing. And this is why I'm here to ask the question. And again, we have a rise in drug usage, so something has to be done. I understand that part, but I also understand that we can't afford to go into every program, no matter how good it is. And that is a problem there. But my question is slightly off kilter on this, in that I am a media buff. I do, a lot of research. And just lately, the legislation from Olympia has come up, and they want to take a lot of your powers, or whatever, authority or whatever, out of the local Board of Health. And I think you guys have seen that. And I mean, if that happens, then basically what good are you being here? What authority are you going to have? I mean, what can you do for the community? I mean, I as it stands right now, I think you can influence a lot of people. You haven't done the authority, but are they going to be able to take that? Can you fight that? I guess is my word. Can you fight Olympia? I know that you're just a local county, but can you stand up and say, okay, State Board of Health, we don't like what you've just said. We're going to do what we want as a county. I mean, is that possible? And I know it's coming down the line, because like I said, I've seen it. There is a bill to do this, and I don't know the number, but there is, to take your authority away.
I think you're talking about HB 1531. And
rings a bell.
So I would like to close the discussion on the youth project, on the reality party, and do some thinking. Let me see if I can come up with some more clear, a little bit more of a clear program. And in the meantime, we'll move on. Oh, another comment?
With all due respect, I just wanted to say, you said that the hope afterwards, after the training, was that volunteers and would step in and support this, and the coalitions would support this as well. I do need you to know that as a coalition, we cannot support this type of event in the community. So, thank you.
Hopefully it'd be my
Just
comment.
one comment first on that one. The school coalition is against the program that we're just outlining right now. And
Based off of our funding and our guidance from the state, we cannot support an activity.
and your funding is from where? And the ESD 112 funding? So Tim?
So just a thought is, you know, it's a tough issue to address. And my suggestion is get a group of folks, several members of the Board of Health, both, you know, commissioner and the citizens, and get together and talk about what are effective programs, because I'm assuming that I make an assumption that the part of this discussion is either related to the opioid dollars you have. Is that your funding source is the opioid dollars? Okay. So just get a group together to say, okay, because the opioid dollars, and Gina probably will correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's some certain programs that can be used with the opioid dollars. So I guess my message in summary is get some key members around within this group, and some of us that work in prevention, and say, okay, how can we design the best program? And Ron really said it well, because I, of course, do strengthening families. But one of the key things it's hard to get parents to come to that. But one of the key things that we teach in strengthening families example is it's the session on who, where, what, and when. You know, helping parents identify, you know, where are you going, who are you with, and oh, by the way, I'm going to call the other parent. So I think there's I guess my message is get an ad hoc group around the table and say, okay, what works? And because I don't expect you guys to be the experts in prevention. I mean, if you are, good, I'll recruit you to do 4-H. But anyway, so I think just getting some things around the table, so that helps guide you guys' discussion.
Thank you. So, yeah, lots of opinions back and forth on this, and so I'd like to table that. I'll open it up to public comment now.
Happy New Year. My name is Bob Runnels. I'm with Informed Choice Washington. I want to thank you guys again. A few on the board here have passed a resolution last year that basically warned people about the government overreach and during the pandemic. So I appreciate that. We're one of the few counties to do that. And so I just wanted to go on to kind of another topic here, that given that you've done a resolution in the past, I might ask again that you would do a resolution. There's been more science and data published on COVID-19 shots, and I ask that you recommend against receiving COVID-19 shots to your citizens in Cowlitz County. It is becoming abundantly clear that the risks might very well outweigh the benefits. At the very least, the risk-benefit equation has changed. So out of an abundance of caution, please make this recommendation. Why? I did forward a video link from a bunch of doctors who have testified and brought forth all the science and data that they've got available right now. And I believe it's about an hour long, and that's been presented in Southwest Idaho and has caused their health district, to remove the COVID-19 shots from their clinics.
Oh, let me interrupt you for a second. Dr. Krager, could I ask you to come up? maybe talk, our Dr. Krieger is our health officer. And yes, I brought that Idaho up at the last meeting. Can you explain what they did there?
I'm deferring to the video where they'll give you more explanation of the science that helped them come to that decision. But literally, it was science and doctors and scientists presenting data and studies that was enough to cause alarm that the Southwest District, Health District of Idaho, multiple counties, withdrew the COVID shots from their county clinics. And I don't know if Cowlitz County has clinics. No larger counties have many clinics that will distribute the vaccines.
We do not, just so you know.
Say it again?
We don't have vaccine clinics at this time.
But from what I've been told as well, the HH does not provide them, and we don't have any county clinics in this county.
So by the mechanism that's taking place with adverse events and a lot of unknown and long-term effects from these shots, wouldn't it still be a public health concern? And there are shedding concerns, and I can give you a 7-part doctor set of letters expressing the concerns about shedding. When you have somebody go get their shot, they walk out of the clinic and they spread the whatever they're spreading after they get their shot. So at any rate, I don't have any other proposal except for to put this before you to explore what you can do to put out a warning about the COVID shots. Now, the reason I'm even saying this is there has been a new study that came out just last week. And if you let me go into just a couple details, I'll get into some things that have been discovered over the last year or so about the COVID-19 shots. They are contaminated with DNA fragments of E. coli bacteria normally found in human waste. It is very plausible these DNA fragments called plasmids are reactive with human DNA. Say during mitosis, when your cells replicate, your cell nucleus breaks down, your DNA is exposed. What's going on inside the cell? Maybe there's an RNA in there ready to react. Another study that's come out and multiple confirming studies about frame shifting or mutational drifts is the induced spike proteins, which make the future shots less and less effective to the point of negative efficacy. And now on January 14th, a peer-reviewed study in the prestigious Nature Biotechnology journal basically showed with 40 authors, they upended government's original claims that the mRNA vaccines would remain localized at the injection site, that they'd quickly and harmlessly dissolve in your shoulder. The findings also provided a plausible explanation for what causes serious known side effects like myocarditis. So they found a mechanism of action. These are all concerns that have now changed the risk-benefit equation. You would not be alone in sounding an alarm. And why am I bringing this up now? A previous commenter mentioned Olympia is moving to stop such actions as your resolution. So what little voice you think you had in communicable disease situations, you would have zero voice in communicable disease situations. So I believe your charter actually talks about having authority and control and something to say about all public health issues. I would be curious about what your local health officer thinks. But the bill is HB 1531. Again, I forwarded you the email and the link, and I have a couple talking points on that. Preserving the ability of public officials to address communicable diseases using scientifically proven measures to control the spread of such diseases. And the action, the critical part of this bill is the state and its political subdivisions, county council, but also the Board of Health by virtue of its charter, may not enact statutes, ordinances, rules, or policies that prohibit the implementation and promotion of such measures. This is a Democrat-sponsored bill. It comes before the Committee of Health this Friday at 8 a.m. in Olympia. The public is generally outraged. The comment list is already at 6,500 versus 75 people who are pro, notably members of the FDA's ACIP, Ed Marcuse, and Francis Bell, who's on the Vaccine Advisory Committee. I mean, these are public health workers who want to do this to counties, that want to clamp down on their ability to diverge from the science that's declared in one space with one solution, namely vaccines. The word vaccines is invoked in this bill numerous times. So they're obviously going for, they want mandatory vaccines. Shut up. At any rate, COVID shots aren't the only real, COVID shots for humans are not even the major concern at times. We've been ingesting mRNA type vaccines through our pork for years. And I just didn't believe it, couldn't believe, why didn't they tell us? How have they not tested this more? Oh, maybe this is the test. But it's come to light, and I have a Flame magazine here. This is our paper that is often shared locally with a pretty good investigative article. I hope you would read it, and I've got copies for you if I can hand out that at the end. It has come to light that pork producers in America have been quietly administering customizable mRNA-based gene therapy to animals, particularly pigs, I believe cows too, but for several years now, the practice, shrouded in secrecy, involves injecting mRNA clot shots into pigs without any disclosures on food labels. The implications of this operation are alarming as consumers unknowingly ingest pork contaminated with millions of these molecules. There's just, I feel like we're way behind the curve here, people. And anything you can do to help push back on this. I think that more visibility and maybe your voices in Olympia, if you would protest this, would be very helpful. 8 a.m. Monday morning, sign up at least 1 hour before. You can probably, as county officials, you can probably get onto a panel where I'll get squeezed out of my public comment, but I'd rather hear from you if you agree with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let me ask had one last little question. If the communicable disease weigh-in by a county is removed, I know it takes away like 95% of your local health officer's job. So I see a cost savings. Maybe there's an upside to this whole thing.
Dr. Krager, have you seen the bill?
No, I've only heard about it, but I haven't had a chance to review it.
Yeah, if you could look at it, see what it is, because it will affect you as well.
Yeah, and I would say I do more. Communicable disease isn't 95% of my job, but it's a large part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, from what I saw, it did look like it's going to strip the local authority. On the question that the presenter just talked about, that I've seen a lot of more evidence. We now know that myocarditis is now listed on the COVID vaccine as a warning. Before it was not, now it is on there. So we know that it can cause myocarditis. There's a growing number of data coming from many doctors and a growing group of doctors that are really against the mRNA vaccines, not specifically just the COVID, but just the mRNA type of vaccine. There is a COVID vaccine that is not mRNA, it's a dead virus.
Correct.
So that is something that's available, personally, that I would choose. But I'd just like to ask you, do you have any concerns at all about mRNA vaccines?
Wow. So I'd love to, if we want to talk about like vaccine safety and efficacy, I think I could do a presentation about it. I think it could be really useful. I've reviewed a lot of the data around the COVID-19 vaccines, and I still think that they're effective. I don't have major concerns about their efficacy. I think they're less important than they used to be. We have lots of less death happening from COVID-19. We have a huge amount of influenza right now in the community. So it's not been my huge focus to talk about COVID-19 vaccines. But I'd love the chance to, if we want to talk about it in the future, and if I get a little bit of chance to prepare, our our system of, studying vaccines, studying their safety is really interesting, and I like talking about it, so I'd be happy to.
Could you look, or Kelly, can you forward what the board received? I don't know if you got it or not, but the latest report.
Sure,
and-
I'd be happy to review that.
And let us
Yeah.
know. Anybody else have any comments for the doctor or about mRNA? Let me call an in for it. Okay, well, with that, did you have any more comments, Dr. Krager?
No,
No?
but again, let me know if I can help in the future
Yeah,
and talk.
thank
Yeah,
you. We'll send that to you. I appreciate that.
thanks.
Well, with that, let's adjourn the meeting. Thank you for all good discussion. We'll call it 11:30 adjournment. Thank you.